What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the best weight loss podcast in the world, Cheating on Fat. We got a couple tall, dark, and handsome hosts with you today. It's the fatty daddy himself, Danny Mabley. And to my right, of course, I have the Italian stallion, John Arpino.
How you doing, pal?
I'm doing pretty good. Today we got quite the fun one for you, but also a little bit more educational on this one.
Yeah.
What are we talking about, Johnny boy?
Today we're talking about like weight loss basics and just working out basics.
Yeah. Figured we've done a few episodes now for people that may be coming across this and don't know a lot about weight loss, how to start, how to keep going, different parts of your journey. We're going to talk about what works best for us. Once again, this is not an educational doctor/nutritionist podcast. There's a couple guys telling you their story, telling you what worked for them. Of course, we've equally done, I think, a good amount of research onto the science of weight loss and the science of nutrition and fitness. But at the end of the day, do what works best for you. And that's what's going to work the best in the long run anyways.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So let's start. Number one thing you should do in the pyramid of things that are important when it comes to weight loss. Number one, top first.
For me?
No, in general.
Oh, in general? Definitely starting with your nutrition. That's what I think.
Absolutely. That's what I was looking for.
Okay, go ahead.
You nailed it.
All right, yeah.
No problem.
Go me.
Where's the confidence, John? I need the confidence in this episode. We took too big of a break.
We did.
Like I was dealing with some stuff on the phone with some family.
Yeah.
Now I'm awesome.
It threw me for a loop. But anyway, yeah, no, definitely the best first place to start would definitely be with your nutrition, dialing in on what you're actually consuming and how it's correlating with what you're doing with the rest of your life, your daily activity, etc.
Yeah. Let's start bare bones. Macronutrients, protein, carbs, fats.
Yeah.
There's 9 calories per gram of fat. There's 4 calories per gram of protein, 4 calories per gram of carb. Right? That's still right.
I mean, I think that's still right, unless they changed it.
That'd be hilarious. Yeah, I believe that's still the case. And if we're going to watch this back and be like, oh, we're dumb. We didn't know this. Weird. Interesting. Yeah, so those will make up calories. But early on in my journey, that's all I cared about. All I focused was on macronutrients. It was the if it fits your macros, part of the weight loss trend. But luckily, as far as trends and fads go, it's one of the ones that at least teaches you a good amount about nutrition.
Yeah.
So I do think now that it's way more important to get in micronutrients as well. And another macronutrient that's not technically a macronutrient I would add into the importance of macronutrients is fiber. So it's like protein, carbs, fats, fiber. If you're starting out just in general, making good choices, not tracking, but just like making better choices with your diet, you'll start to see results. Eventually, to keep going, unless you're eating the same things every single day, you're going to want to adjust or at least track and figure out what your intake kind of looks like.
Right.
But one thing I've always said is like, if it's too much for you, just do calories and protein and like make that a goal. And then add fiber in as a calories, protein, fiber as the next step. And then if you really want to get into the weeds and you're like, ooh, I'm okay with this. I'm comfortable. It doesn't give me anxiety. I want to like play with my body more.
Hey.
And see what works best, then look at all the macronutrients together. But I think that's a very good starting point as far as nutrition is concerned. And of course, macronutrients being all the vitamins and minerals you get from food.
Absolutely. I think for me, what I really focused on when I started out my journey, right? Like I was kicking carbs to the curb, right? I think that's where a lot of us start is like at a low carb.
The trendiest thing.
Yeah, because I think that's like, it's not the easiest to eliminate, but I think it's the most logical thing to eliminate for a lot of us. And as a bariatric patient, when I was going through that whole process, we get handed what I call the weight loss surgery Bible. And within the Bible, they tell us per serving to, try to stay below 6 grams of sugar and below per serving. So that was something that I really focused on, was like not having a lot of sugar in my diet, not having a lot of carbs in my diet. I switched from like, again, I'm an old school Italian from New York. So it's like Carb City. I steered away from, the pastas, the breads, etc. And I switched to like protein pastas or chickpea pastas, all the fun alternative stuff that you kind of get hooked on in the beginning of your weight loss journey when you think you can't eat anything. Mm-hmm. Slowly but surely, obviously, learning more on the journey rather, you start to reincorporate things, because I know I'm jumping ahead a lot, but what you can end up doing when you eliminate too much too quick is you end up fearing things, which is what happened with me. And I feared carbs for about 6.5 years, petrified. I didn't have a real slice of pizza for 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just took it off the table. But that was because of the lack of knowledge. But also, and I think you and I have talked about this off camera too, I associated certain foods with not just being foods, but like pizza for me. Pizza was not just a food. Pizza was a security blanket, right? So like pizza was the one thing in life that I knew no matter what was going to love me as much as I loved it. It was not going to call me fat. It wasn't going to call me stupid. It wasn't going to call me lazy. And you knew what you were going to get every time for the most part, you know, and even a bad slice of pizza is a good slice of pizza.
Yeah. Yeah. Facts. Yeah. Yeah. I weirdly skipped that phase of like being like scared of certain foods just because when I fell into it and found so much success was with the like if it fits your macro style. Like,
Right.
Doesn't matter what you eat. It's actually just what the amount and the calories and the intake of what you eat. And so I ate out for lunch every single day when I was working at my job, like every single day. In the mornings, sometimes we would get coffees and muffins from McDonald's, and sometimes we get rodeo burgers from Burger King. Sometimes we do sushi. Like I would just do whatever fit into my goal. And then when I was younger, that worked. The issue is as I've gotten older, I'm redoing this journey. It doesn't work for me anymore.
Right.
I didn't have the same self-control, the same time, the same structure of life, the same support system, the same routine to upkeep that way of eating. And for someone who's struggled with their weight their whole life, like before I had the self-control to be like, I'll have one burger and then stop, or I'll have three slices of pizza and then stop. Now it's like, if I have that, I crave it all day long.
Okay.
And so I just did a little chat with John, aka Obese to Beast, the other day, and we talked about, you know, recently even when I involved like foods that are like processed or fast food or like just not great choices, I usually do them at the end of the day because I know for myself it's going to give me the best scenario to do as little damage as possible.
Okay.
Right? Because if I started off the day with like one of my favorites is like a sausage, egg, and cheese bagels breakfast sandwich, right? If I had that at the beginning of the day, I'm going to want that salty, savory, like crunchy, crispy, umami like flavor for the rest of the day. So I'm going to want the burgers. I'm going to want the pizza. I'm going to want the chicken fingers. I'm going to want all those fried, salty foods and stuff. And that's not great because then you're battling that all day. It's on your mind all day. Then you're thinking about food all day. Like it's a cycle, like a domino effect. So if I have it at the end of the day, or if I feel the craving coming up, I'm like, I'm going to push it off the end of the day, push it up the end of the day, because I have it, I can go to bed, wake up the next day, ready to take on the new day, you know? That's the way I've had to do it now. And even then I do it so much less. I was going from basically eating out every day to like now once a week for the most part, which is an amazing change. It used to be multiple times a day, like almost every meal, right? So not only am I saving a shit ton of money, but I'm making way healthier choices, eating way better. It's been great. But nutrition is a crazy thing, man. Like it really, like, I don't even think saying one size fits all is not even good enough to what nutrition is, because it's like not one size and one brand and one like everything like doesn't fit all. Like something this like the same keto diet for two different people can be like one person is really, really good at doing it this way, and the other person is really, really good at doing it this way. And that's just one specific diet that for another person is not even close to being possible to do for life, you know? So there's a lot to take into account with nutrition, and with so much information out there, it's so hard to like know what's what.
Yeah.
You know, especially with like, oh, this isn't good. Well, this guy that says this is good now, but then he said 2 months ago, this wasn't good.
Yeah.
And now this is supposed to make me fat, but this was supposed to help me with my goals. And you could just, you could just, all of a sudden you're just eating water. You're drinking water. Like that's what you're doing.
Well, I think because obviously now we live in the age of social media, right? Everything is really at our fingertips. The problem with everything being at our fingertips is obviously social media influencers take these fad diets and they blow them out of proportion, right? And then like, well, I mean, this is a poor example, but like Liver King, everyone thought because Liver King was having all that success when really he was, but anyway, that raw meat was like changing lives and whatever. And then you come to find out, you know, how bad some of that stuff really is, how it's not as healthy as it, you know, seems. And honestly, again, like you just said, what works for you is not necessarily going to work for me because our bodies are so different. The way we take in certain nutrients is totally different.
The way food was for you as a child, maybe different than the way food was for me as a child. Like there's so many factors that I think we just need to start giving ourselves a little bit of a break, not to like give yourself an excuse and let up on the goals that you're trying to achieve, but just the reality of like, dude, this is probably one of the hardest things that you're ever going to do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Anyone who makes this seem like it's a walk in the park, because there are people that really feel like weight loss and
it looks so easy for them.
Easy. Yeah. But it's not. I mean, there's so much more underneath all of it, right? Because I think we said in the past episodes, like there's so much more of that mental aspect that it really is the physical, getting out there and moving around and stuff like that.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we're not at a place yet where everyone is as transparent as they should be.
Right.
You know, hey, I get it. You don't have to share everything online. But when it comes to the weight loss journey, like with social media in general, it just applies to the weight loss industry. You know, we share our highlights, right?
Of course.
That's why I've always tried, no matter the hate or no matter the, you know, comments I got that were a little bit, you know, rude or whatever it is, I've always tried to be as transparent as possible to show the reality of what most of us go through. And the interesting thing is, like, the more you share and be transparent, the more you'll realize how many people feel or like can relate to what your story is like.
Absolutely.
Like it still to this day, like baffles me, like, oh shit, like 100 people in some way let me know today that this is similar to what they're feeling. And that's just the people who decide to speak up publicly.
Yep.
There is a ton, we forget this because we're in the industry and we're fine with putting our stuff online. There is a ton of people still living in a great shame when it comes to their weight, their health, their everything. So they don't need, like, their profile pictures are random. They're not commenting. They're just like seeing your stuff. And even if they're not messaging you, they probably are being impacted in a positive way by it. It's just they're not there yet to, like, I've had people message me like, hey, I've been following you for years. Right. This is the first time I've ever wanted to send you a message, but I just resonated with this so much. And I really feel like this might be my moment. And it's like, that's what we do this for, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's again, I said this before, like the reason why I've always been so vulnerable and transparent is because, like, I know for a fact, without a shadow of a doubt, that there's another version of me somehow, some way out there. And he's just looking for a fighting chance. And without that relatability of the stuff that I have forced myself in the beginning, to post online. Now I'm very, very vulnerable, very transparent. But I know that is going to impact somebody on such a level that they don't even need to reach out to me. I know that I lived through it, so someone else has to be living through it. Because yes, we like to say that everyone is different, but at the end of the day, we're all so much more alike than we let ourselves believe, you know? And we're all going through some sort of struggle one way or another. It might not be identical, but there's definitely some underlying tones of it being a lot alike. And if you have the opportunity, you are given the platform to speak on these things that people are so afraid to speak on, you have no idea the amount of people that you're actually impacting, because for the first time ever, they're hearing it out of someone else's mouth. You know?
Yeah. No, for sure. And just go back, when it comes to nutrition, those are the basics. You do have to be in a caloric deficit to lose fat.
Yep.
That's going to be easier or harder for different people. It's not going to be the same level of feeling and work it is for one person than it is the next. So even though that phrase is kind of like triggering for a lot of people now, like, oh, we'll just eat less and move more. Like it really is what it comes down to, but what that means for you is going to be very different than someone else.
Yeah.
So, you know, focus on that, focus on the results. Doesn't have to be just be the scale. It can be different areas of your life. But if you're feeling like you're getting healthier, you're being able to move more, you're able to do more, feel better, like just pay attention to those things and keep on trucking.
Yeah. Right? And I think, like, I also think that the whole all or nothing mentality when it comes to both weight loss and nutrition kind of needs to be put to the side a little bit, because I don't feel like people understand that when you're starting out, right? And let's just say that you're someone who's like me, for example, was 520 pounds. I wasn't someone who could just get up off the couch, go outside and take a 30-minute walk, right? That was a lot. But getting off the couch and taking a 5-minute walk consistently will have so much more impacting results than not doing anything at all, right? So you don't need to go to the extreme of, all right, I'm starting a diet, I'm going in my kitchen, I'm throwing everything out right now, I'm wasting hundreds upon $100 of food, throwing that all out, starting right now, tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., I'm getting up and I'm going for a 30-minute jog.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen, right? And when you tell yourself that is what's going to happen and that's going to be the shift for you, you're more likely to fail because you're really not giving yourself the chance to prove to yourself what you're actually capable of doing. Again, you don't have to go from one extreme of being so sedentary and not doing anything to all of a sudden being Usain Bolt and running marathons or, whatever he does. It's not marathons he does sprints. That's the one.
Yeah. But yeah, I totally agree. Make realistic goals.
Yeah.
Right? Like make goals that you can slowly work towards and achieve. But I think it's also still important though to have like one goal that doesn't really seem realistic and you don't really know how you're going to do it, but ingrain that shit into your brand.
Absolutely.
Like it's not going to be something that you're going to get right away. It's not, instant gratification, but in your brand go, I'm going to get to, maybe and this can change for every person, but for me, like I'm going to get to 200 pounds in the next 2 years, guaranteed. That's it.
That's it.
Like I don't know how I'm going to do that. I know the journey along the way was going to generally look like, but will I not? I don't care. I'm going to put that in my brain and remind myself as much as I possibly can so that my body goes, oh, right, we're doing this thing.
But even so much, saying it in your brain is one thing, right?
Writing it down,
speaking it out loud, it out loud a lot, right? That's what's really going to reprogram your mind to point you in the direction and get you to where you got to go. I love telling people, like everyone has this huge, big goal, right? The big picture goal. And I love that. And I support that so much. But when it comes to the big picture goal, I want you to set that big picture goal, have it, keep it in the back of your mind. But now let's talk about how we're going to take that big picture goal and we're going to break it down into bite-sized pieces. Because what happens is a lot of people, again, they just see the two extremes. I'm here, I need to get here. How am I getting there as quickly as possible? What they don't understand is like before you get from point A to point B, you got to worry about point A1, A2, A3, A4, et cetera, et cetera. And that's, I have the mantra of the gains in between. I end a lot of my posts with hashtag the gains in between. And that's really what the gains in between is. It's all those little minute goals that you don't think about that you have to hit before you get to the big picture goal. So losing 200 pounds, that is awesome. But did you ever think about the fact that you need to at least go down one pant size before you get to the 200 pound weight goal? Like you didn't think about that, right? But you have to remember to celebrate those little things before you get to here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then just to finish off nutrition, I would say like generally, like I said, like whatever's going to work for you is going to work for you. Try to eat as many whole foods as you possibly can, minimize processed foods, but like I know some people who are able to do it where they eat mostly whole, foods. And then some people do eat a lot of like, processed stuff and they still are successful. So like it's going to be different. And then also throughout your life, it's going to change. Like I said, like for one thing worked for me and now it doesn't. Now I'm on a new journey.
Yeah.
And so you just kind of have to figure out at the time what's working for you, adapt, and just keep on going. Like no matter what happens, you just have to adapt, shift, and keep fighting the good battle. But from there, I think we're already kind of into it anyways. So the second and almost equally as important, we could argue, is greater, is the mindset.
Yeah.
So we already talked about kind of the goal setting. Short and long-term goals are very important. But then I've talked about it in previous podcasts as well, like your identity and who you think you are. The idea that you're going to change yourself by telling yourself in the mirror that you're a fat piece of shit. Yeah. And that's going to be a positive change and everything's going to change because you get leaner. Like that's not how it works. You don't fix a mentality like that by achieving your goal. You'll just create something new in your mind that you're now focused on. That's a bad thing.
Yep.
So it's not, I'm a fat piece of shit. It's, hey, I'm not where I want to be. And I know how good my life is going to be when I get to where I want to be. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to be good because it's going to make me happy. But like, what's that? Like, think about what being in the body that you want to be in, what that allows you to do in life, what kind of relationships that allows you to have. Like, I don't want to get, conceited in a way, but the reality is there is pretty privilege. Like, I've experienced it firsthand being a bigger guy and then getting leaner. And I imagine you have as well.
Of course.
Like, your life is going to shift. It's crappy that that's the case, but it is the reality. So we're going to keep it real with y'all. So you got to think, like, what relationships, what things, what places, what is your life going to look like in a positive way when you get to where you want to be? A realistic, positive way. What's that going to look like for you? That's what you have to focus on, and that's what should be your daily goal, rather than just I won't be a lazy blah 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 anymore.
And I think you need to stop. Relating a number to a feeling, right? So like, you might sit there and you might have your dream weight goal of, whatever it is, 200 pounds flat, right? You might get to 200 pounds flat and you might realize, and you either A, don't like it, or B, it's not everything that you thought it was going to be, right? So then when you have that identity behind a certain number, you lose yourself in the woods of like what actually matters and what doesn't matter, because you put so much behind that number. So like Danny was just saying before, like, it's more of, you have to set the goals of like, okay, what do I want my life to look like, rather than what I want the scale to tell me, right? So again, I think that's why what Danny was saying before too, like having the big picture goals, the small picture goals, the short-term goals, that's so important for the entire journey as a whole. Because again, when you're 80, you're never going to think back in time and be like, I remember what it was like to be 198 pounds, and that was the best I ever felt. And you have no idea. Like, it was just no, but you are going to remember being able to get on the floor at your kid and play with Legos, right? But if 520 pounds, there was no doing that. Like, it's those small little things, or just throwing a baseball with your kid, throwing a football with your kid, being able to ride bikes. Like, those are the impactful major moments in life that you need to be focusing on, rather than I need to get to X, Y, and Z number.
Yeah. And it doesn't end though too when you achieve that goal. No, the goal setting and the mindset shift is going to be something you're going to continue to do like throughout the entire journey.
Absolutely.
Because once you're done, like once you've achieved what you kind of wanted to in the first place, if you just have no other kind of goal in mind, no other, like, your identity is going to work against you and try to pull you back to what you knew. You're going to start to introduce bad habits. You're going to start eating how you used to. And those things are just going to like pull you back to where you feel comfortable. And that's going to take a long time and might for life be something that you have to fight against. And so when you're done, in quotations, it's still very, very important to make a next goal, make something that you're still achieving towards, whether it be then, say, if you're a runner, like what kind of, how far do you want to run? How fast do you want to run? If you're weight training, like, do you want to, build bigger shoulders? Do you want to lift heavier weights? Like, whatever it is that you're doing at that time activity wise, and you're going to need to increase your activity. We'll get into that very soon. But whatever you're doing, you need to continue to make a goal to work towards, because that's going to keep you in the body and the health that you're currently at, that you worked so hard to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always about what's next, eyes always forward. The goals are going to happen. You're going to break the goals, but like Danny's saying, like, what is going to happen after that? You always have to be prepared for the next chapter, right? Like, you have an amazing story, but at the end of the day too, you have to remember your story. You're writing your story every day, and you got to make it a great one, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, as you go to like I said, like, things are just going to change. Like, you're going to have to adapt. Life's going to change. You're going to get busier. You're not going to have as much time in your hands. You're going to have to adjust the workouts you want to do. You're going to have to prioritize different things. Like, things are going to shift. So to keep, going with where you're at, we're making it sound very difficult, right? But the reality is this stuff becomes much easier once it becomes like just routine habit, right? It's not like you're going to be like worried. Like, the feeling you are at in the first half of your journey is going to be probably the worst and most anxious you're going to feel for most of the journey. Yeah, that could possibly change, but for the most part, that first half is going to be like ugh. And then once you're halfway through, it's like you'll have a day where you look at yourself in the mirror, or you would do something that you never thought you could do, where you're like, oh,
Yeah.
here we go.
And you need to allow change in your life, right? Like
And notice them.
right, and notice them.
Oh, it's not a big deal. No,
No, it's a
every
huge deal. Yeah, you have to so like that's another thing too. You have to constantly celebrate everything, right? Like, and I don't mean like throw yourself a party, whatever,
eat a bunch of food.
Yeah. But like, give yourself that self high five and be like, you did it, dude. Like,
You just blew out someone's eardrums with that clap. Clap right in front of the mic. My bad. I just stopped plugging it. Yeah, no, absolutely. So getting into then, I think the next would be activity.
yeah. So, starting out, I would really just start walking a little bit.
Walking and steps are the easiest. Anyone can do it. It's the most gentle on. I mean, it's not the most gentle on your body.
No.
But it's the most convenient. Most gentle would be definitely a bike if you have seated bike, or some people if you're a really really heavy start, a hand bike. That's something that can work for someone who's like, I can't even do this.
Yeah, I couldn't do cardio starting off. Like, I have terrible knees, terrible back. And again, with my asthma, walking was just really a problem. So a lot of my weight was lost on the recumbent bike, the back-seated bike. And that's my favorite to this day.
I started when I first ever started too.
To this day, that's my favorite type of cardio. And that's another thing. If you find a cardio activity that you like to do, right? Hone in on that.
Yeah, don't let anyone tell you that it's not enough.
It's not enough. Yeah, continue to do that, because the more you build that consistency, the more results you're going to have. You can be comfortable and be happy while working out. Mm-hmm. It doesn't always have to be a constant inner battle like, oh, we need to go do this again. Like, it will get to the point where you're going to notice you're starting to enjoy it.
Yeah, you're going to have to work, but it's going to be enjoyable.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do it forever, it's got to be enjoyable.
Yeah.
Or else you're just not. So yeah, definitely start out walking. And then that next step is just kind of not everyone wants to like look like they lift weights, right? I understand that. I used to be, that was like, to me, like, I do think for everyone can at least like improve their overall life without even thinking of aesthetics, like just in general health, by moving their body and lifting some weights like twice a week.
Yeah.
Like minimally do two full body workouts a week. That's all you have to do. Like realistically, if you just want to like optimize your health, be a little healthier and shape your body a little up a bit more, that's all you need. If then you want to do more, you want to look a certain way, you want to lift heavier, that's where you need to then look at these programs, right? I think everyone gets into this, they're like, oh, I got to do this intense training program. I got to follow this bodybuilding.com. Back in the day when I started, that was the shit. Yeah. Workout and program, and it's like super intense. I'm doing this HIIT cardio, and like start out basic, figure out what, like I said, back to the mindset thing. What do you look like? What are the things you're doing on a day-to-day basis? Mm-hmm. And then what do you need to do in the gym, in the outside, wherever, to support where you want to be? Mm-hmm. That's all you need.
And also, like, remember, you don't need to be Goggins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think that obviously
amazing story.
Dude's on fire. Yeah. Like, shout out to him, but that's not for the everyday person.
Yeah. I'm not against in any way, but there's a uber masculine side of like health and fitness that is very like, intense,
Oh yeah, I don't care about that stuff.
Yeah, and some people feel like that should be the standard for everyone, and that's just ridiculous, dude.
I mean, I gotta be honest with you, I don't give a fuck who carries the boats. Like, I really I drove here. I really don't care.
Okay, we're never having Goggins on the podcast. That's just been decided.
That has been solidified, actually.
We would love, if you've watched this somehow, we would love to have you.
We would love to have you. I'm sorry.
We'd love to asshole. But John doesn't care about boats. Okay.
I don't care about the boats.
You don't know me, son. It hypes me up for sure. Like if I bought his book. I saw him read it. But no, there's like I said, like there's a part of the online space that just seems like everything has to be super. Like Jeff Nippard, shout out Jeff Nippard, one of my great friends in the fitness industry. He's always said to me, man, he's like, people just care too much about this shit.
Yeah.
Like people just think like, oh, if you're eating this and this, and oh, you can't do that. Take a breath. it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
Move, like when people tell you, oh, move more, eat less, like don't feel that as like a intense thing. Just be like, move a little more, eat a little bit less. Like that really, if you break it all down,
Right.
that's all it is.
Yeah.
Like everything else, of course, will decide, you know, you want to improve your health a bit more, eat a little bit healthier. If you want to move a bit more, start doing more activity. Like all is more or less, but the basic scale, like if you just want to be a better, healthier version of you, it doesn't take that much craziness.
Yeah.
It takes very basic, very consistent, like effort. That's all you need.
Yeah. Like consistency compounds itself, right?
Yeah.
The more consistent you are, you're going to have more results, but that doesn't mean that you need to be on fire, balls to the walls every single day of your whole entire life, forever, ever, until death do you part.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah. Especially like, you know, as you get older, like you're going to want to do less. Like, and some people don't, but you know, like it's not always going to be the same thing.
but
So,
I think as you get older too, like I can't speak on this, but you could speak on this, right? Like you're going to have kids, right? And that's obviously going to take you out of your routine a little bit, because then you're not just living for yourself, you're living for the kid. And, you know, they're going to have the activities that they need to get to, and whatever, dance recitals, baseball games, whatever the case may be. So like, you're not going to have that time that you have now or then or whatever.
Yeah, my family dynamic now is a bit wonky, but when it was normal, like an everyday kind of normal, you know, couple and a kid or two life, like I was starting to go to the gym at like 6 a.m. every day. Not because I wanted to, but because it's the only thing that could fit the lifestyle at the time that worked out, and that worked for everyone. So it becomes not just, it's very easy to, it's much easier, not very, it's much easier to be a healthier version of you and to get to a healthy version of you, the more selfish you can be.
Yeah.
And you can't be as selfish when you're having to not worry, when you're having to be there for other people.
Yeah.
Right. And so it is definitely a privilege when you're younger, or if you choose to stay, you know, more single or not have kids or whatever, like that's going to age you, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you have to structure things differently. You have to prioritize, you have to adapt, all the things we're talking about. Like it all, just take the basics, adapt them to your life, set a goal and visualize where you want to be. And then everything in between is just kind of like, you know, working your way there. But if you are going to go to the gym, what's your favorite workout routine?
My favorite workout routine, I mean,
I'll like split.
I mean, I'm a very big chest, back. I don't
you do like a bodybuilding style? And one muscle group per
one muscle group per workout. You know, most of the time.
Yeah. Like I said, is it going to make that big of a difference? But for me, like I like an upper, lower, push, pull legs. So anywhere from 4 to 6 days a week, basically. But like I said, I would say minimum you can do 2 to 3 days and you'll still have great results.
Yeah.
And anything that incorporates a mix of lifting heavy, it's important to lift heavy weights for women or men. It's important to do that. And also, of course, lifting a little bit lighter, but pushing yourself, you know, figuring out, once again, like what you want to look like. You can adapt your training program to that. If you want to deep dive one day, let us know in the comments and maybe we'll do that, but we'll just keep it very basic level just to get you guys started. So figure out what you want, look up a routine that fits your schedule, take a look at it. If you don't know stuff, learn. You can learn on YouTube. You can hire a trainer for a few sessions at a gym.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say now. Like, you don't feel like you need to do this alone, right? You have so many resources at your fingertips. Ask for help. Never be afraid to ask for help. And one of the biggest things that I learned going to the gym and whatnot, like, we all think that everyone who's in the gym thinks that like the big person in the gym is going to be bothersome. They're going to be in everyone's way, whatever. Meanwhile, being a 500-pound guy going to the gym, it was the big, jacked up, yoked up, for lack of a better term, juiced up guys that were like, they were the ones that were helping me. They were the ones who were kind of pointing me in the right direction and saying, you should do this, you should do that. Like, this is, you know, and then those were the same guys that were coming up to me in the gym and be like, dude, you look fucking great. Like, keep it up. Like, we've been watching you. Like, this is awesome. And like, that really gave me the confidence boost. Like, okay, like I'm doing something. Like, because it took me a very, very long time to see my own results, right? Because again, we see ourselves in the mirror every day. So like, I didn't notice a weight loss change in myself until, no joking around, I was down like 175 pounds.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to notice it. But I had people coming up to me constantly, dude, you look great. You're losing weight. Like, this is awesome, blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, you fucking with me? Like, you sure?
That's funny. Yeah, that first time though, someone comes up to you in the gym and is like, "Yeah, you don't know me, but I've been watching you.
Yeah,
and you're doing great.
Yeah,
you're looking like healthier. You're looking, not everyone has always the best words to use, but
you're looking like a health.
But no, I mean, like, some people say, "Oh, you look skinnier,"
right?
Which may not be your goal, whatever it is. But take everything with like, if they're coming up to say something, they're coming from a good place for the most part.
And that probably took even them a lot to come up to you and say something,
It's probably been on their mind for a while. And the gym can, yes, be an anxiety place for some people, an anxious place for some people. But, man, like, if you meet the right community and you'll learn that majority of people are there for themselves.
Yep.
They're there to better themselves, and they'll notice, little things here and there. It's way more positive than it is negative.
Oh,
people are always worried. They're like, "Oh, so someone comes up and says, I'm doing something wrong." Well, then you're doing something wrong, maybe. Like, just be open to listening. Take things with a grain of salt.
And people don't want to see you hurt yourself.
Make sure you're doing what you want to do, but don't be ashamed because someone's noticing and trying to help. And but yeah, that first time I'm like, "Hey, I noticed you're doing better. You're looking good," and like that, I always feel
huge confidence.
Yeah. It's like, "Oh, I'm coming back here in 2 hours."
2 days now.
Yeah. Let's go. Yeah, that's going to be what we've already covered is going to be the majority. I would say, like, I guess a cardio, like, I didn't do a lot of cardio at the start of my journey at all. Like, I'm like the sitting down and doing bike for like half an hour while I'm like watching a show on my phone or like on a Nintendo Switch.
Right.
Like, that was the extent.
Yeah.
Like, then once I got like I was almost like already healthy then, like I was 200 pounds, 180 pounds. Then I started to like challenge myself with cardio a little bit more because it felt comfortable, so I could push myself. But if it's like, "Oh, I'm super sore," you don't want to overwork yourself to the point where like you're so sore or you're so tired that like you can't get up and get going for the next day.
It's counterproductive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you gotta find your sweet spot. That way you can continue the next day or whatever.
I can't remember where I saw it. I think it was in one of my certifications I did back in the day. But there was research they did on people who were trying to lose weight, and they did a thing where people were doing a workout every day for 20 minutes, and then there was a person who was doing 3 workouts a week for like an hour and a half or something like that with cardio and training and stuff. And the person training like more longer throughout the week was actually losing less weight because they were so sedentary otherwise. Like, people who work out for half an hour, they'd still do the rest of their things in the day that they normally would do. Or someone who worked out like really hard for an hour and a half, they would like sit more for the rest of the day, or maybe not go for that walk they usually go on. Like, they would actually reduce their activity so much in the rest of their life that it would actually be less good than it would be like just doing spread out, decent workouts.
Yeah, I was watching a video recently, and it was from some trainer, and he was just basically like talking about like the amount of sets you do, with weight. And he was saying like he makes his clients stop well before failure, because then they'll be able to come back the next day, go to that same point, and then when you map out how many sets they've done, they actually end up doing more sets than someone who's like just constantly training, constantly sore, because then that person who's sore is not coming back to the gym for another 2 days, like whatever the case may be. So like, again, it's all compounding interest, right? Like, all that consistency is going to add up at the end of the day.
Yeah. So do whatever cardio feels comfortable. Cardio is not something you need to do to lose weight. That's a very huge misconception. People are like, "Stop lifting weights. Like, you need to do more cardio." Tell that person to take a hike. Okay. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. All it comes down to is nutrition first. The activity you add into your life is going to mean you have to adjust that nutrition to achieve the same result. So if you're doing more activity, you can eat a little bit more. If you're doing less activity, you have to eat a little bit less to achieve the same result. Don't hyperfixate on that and like be eating back your calories or not eating. Just take your day-to-day average, see if you're making progress, and if you're making progress, just keep doing what you're doing until you have to adjust because you hit a plateau or something.
I just know that you are always going to have to adjust eventually. That's what I meant earlier by like accepting change and knowing that change is going to come. Like, you will be uncomfortable, right? Like, we're not saying that this is easy, right? Because I mean, we kind of did make it sound hard, but like, you have to get uncomfortable to eventually get comfortable. And that might not resonate with you today when you watch this, if you're someone who's just starting out now. But I promise you, you go about this for the next 6 months to a year, come back, rewatch this episode, and I promise you, you're going to feel like the more uncomfortable I got, the more comfortable I was in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I guess the next thing would be like supplementation. At the end of the day, you don't need to spend $1 on supplements.
Yeah, not at all.
To achieve weight loss.
Right.
Is there things that can make things easier, like protein powder, or make it more motivational, like pre-workout? Yes. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I have no issue with those things. I've always been someone who's preferred to use supplements. I always have caffeine before a workout. Yeah. That's just, but I do coffee now just because I'm trying to reduce my artificial sweeteners. Yeah. Not that there's anything bad with artificial sweeteners, but I was drinking way too many of them. And so I wanted, for me, my own goals to lower those at this time. And so, dude, you don't, speaking of, you don't realize, like, you have one diet soda, but then you also have the pre-workout, but then you have it adds up, man. And I know it's like, absolutely, you have to still have a ton to do damage or to have anything bad happen from them. But I just still in my head, I'm like, it's too much. Mm-hmm. Too much of anything is not good. Yeah. So for me, I wanted to adjust. But you got to kind of apply that to your, anything, too much of anything is not great. Yeah. Right. So think about that when you're doing it. But for supplementation, I think probably the most beneficial really is going to be those two that I mentioned, protein and pre-workout. If you just want something that's going to be easy, pretty affordable for the most part, it's going to help. Third would be creatine, for sure. Creatine's the most studied supplement in the world. It does help. It does make you lift a few more reps. It does help. If you're lifting a few more reps of a certain weight, you're over time going to gain more muscle.
And it's good for cognitive function too. There's a lot of studies coming out.
More and more research comes out. It's just great. Like if you want to do anything, have 5 milligrams of creatine monohydrate a day. Don't buy anything else branded. Some Excelios.
Yeah, no, you don't need anything.
Wingardium Leviosa creatine. Just buy creatine monohydrate. Fact. And throw it in whatever you want, whenever you want, 5 milligrams a day.
And you don't need a test booster. You don't need a fat burner.
No.
Anyway.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't really need any of this. Yeah. But, for some people, I feel like having, like, scooping something in, like, is part of, like, a routine of, like, okay, I'm going to the gym. Yeah. Like, and it just helps. Like, supplements in the reality are part of a lot of people's journeys. You don't need them, but it's like kind of like a fun little game. Yeah. It costs money, but it's like, hey, I'm going to do my pre-workout with a little creatine. I'm going to have my protein shake after. Like, it's kind of like, it gets you in the mode of, like, I have a before, a middle, and an end, right? Mm-hmm. For some people, it's easier to follow through. I know for me it is. Like, I like to have some sort of little routine. So for me, like, I make my coffee before I go to the gym, and then afterwards I have some sort of, like, meal or snack or, and so for some people, if they're busy, protein shake could just be easy to throw together.
Oh yeah. And don't feel like you have to go buy the big jugs of protein or the 75-pound bags.
Do not buy Mass Gainer if you're trying to lose weight.
Yeah, don't buy Mass Gainer because I know a lot of people have made that mistake before.
I've seen supplement shops like sell a dude. He was like, "Yeah, I know you're not trying to gain mass, but this is not fat; it's for muscle." And I was like, after the guy walked away, because I didn't want to like tack him. Right. I was like, "Hey man, you're wrong. You don't need that." Yeah. I told the guy.
Oh, you told the guy?
He was trying to sell it to. I was like, "Hey, you don't need that, man. Like, just so you know." Right. He's like, "Oh, really?" Like, he's paid a seemingly, and I was like, "Yeah, you don't. Trust me. Like, I'm trying to save you some money and help your goals." Like, I was like, I got to say something. Yeah. But careful of supplement shops because they will try and tell you that everything has the craziest benefits and it's all way overshot. Focus on brands that use clinical dosages. They should be advertising that. Every ingredient should be labeled out and what the dosage is. Avoid proprietary blends. If you want, you don't need green powders. You don't need BCAAs. If you want to have those things for your own choice, then do whatever you want to do. Yeah. Like I said, we're not.
Listen, I know people that love to sip BCAAs while they're working out and they love the flavors and whatever.
Do it. Spend the money.
Then do it. Spend the money. If not, you give me the money instead. But like, I just have a problem with and I've tried it, right? When I first started, actually, I'm glad that you brought up that story. When I first started out in my weight loss journey, I walked into a supplement shop and I was totally taken advantage of. You know what I mean?
Well, most people experience that.
I bought
one time.
I was not forced, but I was coerced into buying so many things that I just didn't need. And I remember being very excited about like buying BCAAs, which I don't know why, but I was just like, wow, I have this routine now. I put my BCAAs in my shaker bottle. I drink this on the way to the gym, and then I drink half on the way to the gym, and then I sip the rest while I work out. And then I realized I hate chalky water. Like it just doesn't taste good to me. And it has no benefits. Like, yeah, the flavors taste good, but in the long run, they're really not doing anything for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't need them. Have them if you want them. You know, if you want to research the benefits, a good site to use is examine.com. Brands that I would say that I've used in the past I recommend are Ghost, BPN, Legion Athletics. I have those pretty much all in my cupboard right now. But like I said, focus on everything else we talked about before you even decide to do this. If it's something that you think is going to help you with habit, then give it a shot. But anything someone's trying to sell you and like convince you that you need this because that's a immediate red flag.
Yeah.
And just know you don't need it.
If it sounds like a gimmick and it sounds like a fad, it's probably a gimmick and a fad.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I think we've pretty much covered everything.
You know what? I know we started off a little rocky because of me, but I really like.
No, you did great.
I really like where we ended up with this one.
This is a good one. This is probably the most informative. It's gonna help a lot of people. So, let us know, of course, as always, if we missed anything. If you feel like you have some things to share, leave them in the comment section. Stay sexy.
Stay beautiful.
That too.
Yeah.
Stay wherever you want to.
Yeah, whatever you want to do. Yeah, you know what? It's your world. I want you to end up where you want to be
sexy if you don't want to be sexy.
Yeah, fact.
But we're
going to be sexy.
We want to be sexy.
Aren't we sexy?
Yeah.
Heck yeah. All right.
Yeah, brother.
It's a little CM Punk dude.
We're wrestling fans. We didn't know.
Yeah, if you didn't know.
That's this one, guys. As always, this has been the Cheating on Fat podcast, the best weight loss podcast in the world. Not technically, but we'll work towards it.
Hey, listen.
Remember the mindset thing. We're setting our goals.
Yeah.
We have our vision.
In my mind, this is the best.
We're going to be the best weight loss podcast in the world. We're already it's just waiting for us at the end, wherever we're going.
We're already there, babe. We're the best.
Enjoy. Deuces.
Bye.